Good morning, Beacon. It is a spring day here in New Jersey, and my name is Daniel Simbala. I'm a Beacon member and worship associate, and I'm with Emilie Boggis, one of our co-ministers here this morning. Hi, Emilie.
Hey, Daniel. So good to have you here.
Likewise.
So everyone, I want to give you a special welcome to everyone. Spring is here and we are so missing being together, and the rates are coming down a little bit, but we still have a little ways to go. I want to especially welcome our guests, anybody who's here for the first time or maybe the second time, those people who've come back. A special welcome to you. I was just joking with someone that visitors used to try to hide in the sanctuary when we were in person in the back or underneath the balcony. But this virtual experience really allows you to hide, right? And that said, while that might be comfortable for some, it really stops us from getting to know you and your story. And that's something I deeply miss, is getting to know stories, our stories, and what brought us here today. So in the chat, I have put our guest form, and I really want to encourage you to let us know that you are here. I want you to come out from underneath the eaves and share your story with us. And next Sunday, we hope you'll join us for Starting Point. It's where all of our guests begin at 12:15.
And we don't only have guests online or in the sanctuary, but also from the pulpit.
Yeah.
And this morning we welcome guest preacher Reverend Sarah Skochko. She's from New Jersey, of all places. And when she got called to ministry, she went to one of the two Unitarian Universalist seminaries, the one in Chicago, Meadville Lombard. And she served as coordinator of outreach and engagement at the UU congregation in Eugene, Oregon. And now she's in Austin, Texas.
We're really delighted to welcome Reverend Sarah. And I just love that beginnings start in South Jersey and then over to Oregon and then down to Texas. We are all over the place, that is for sure. And so I really want to invite you to just take a moment to gather yourself for our worship this morning. I want to invite you to let go of the 30,000 things that are happening all over your house or wherever you are, to breathe and to settle your body. I also invite you to kind of look around, and if there are people with you, just take a moment to connect with them, looking at them. If there are people that you'd love to be with, imagine them with you. The Reverend Howard Thurman said that there are two questions that a person must ask themselves. The first is, where am I going? Each Sunday, we look out into the future and consider just that. Where am I going? And then the Reverend Thurman reminds us that there is a very important second question. Who will go with me? This morning, let us reconnect to ourselves, to one another, and to our home, the earth. And let us ever deeply root ourselves in the unity of this, our beloved community. Let us worship together. And let us welcome Reverend Skochko.
Welcome.
In Unitarian Universalist churches, it's our tradition to light a chalice when we come together for worship. I've already lit mine this morning, and I invite you to light a chalice at home if you have one, to help sanctify this space that we share. If you don't have a chalice, please know that the chalices lit by your beloved fellow church members glow brightly enough to hold you in their light. And by this shared light, we are made one. Our chalice lighting words come from Betsy Dar, who writes, "May the light of this chalice give light and warmth to our community when we are joyful and when we despair. And may we feel the warmth spread from our circle to wider and wider circles until all know they belong to one circle of life. Let us worship." Our story today is really a question. It's a thought experiment, one of the oldest in Western philosophy, and some of you will be familiar with it. I want you to imagine that we're all on a big wooden ship with tall masts and sails with wooden planks for the decks. And of course, a working ship needs regular maintenance, so every couple days, as we're sailing along, we remove an old rotten plank and we replace it with a fresh new one. Whatever the weakest plank is, will change. So the ship is always in pretty good shape and it keeps on sailing along. And whenever we're back in our home port, we toss all those old ragged boards into a pile on the dock, and we pick up a fresh new stack of lumber, just in case we need it. Now imagine that after a few years or decades, every plank on the ship has been replaced. Now the question is it still the same ship? If none of the original lumber remains, is it still the same ship? Now imagine that someone else takes that old pile of lumber that we left on the dock and puts it all back together and makes a second ship out of the original lumber. Imagine that somehow they put every plank back into the original place that it was in, so that every deck board was still a deck board and so forth. Which ship would be the original? The one that they made out of the old boards, or the one that we're sailing on that we never got off of, but that's made out of all new boards? Which is the real ship? Now, this is called the Ship of Theseus problem, and philosophers and theologians have been trying to come up with an answer to this problem for thousands of years. If we think about it, it can be applied to many aspects of human life. So for one thing, it's been said that no one can step into the same river twice. The water's always moving. The river changes with every moment. Imagine taking your family for a picnic every year on the same shady bend in a river, a beautiful spot to picnic. Well, if no one even steps into the same river twice, after 20 years, if you're still picnicking in the same spot, how do you even know it's the same spot? Is it the same spot? What if all the original trees have fallen down and new ones have grown up? How can you even tell? But the fact remains that we can still tell, can't we, where we used to picnic? So something remains the same. Something tells us where to put the blanket, and that something matters to us, doesn't it? And we ourselves, with all of our cells always being replaced, are we still the same people? And not even biologically, what if our house changes, or our school, or our job, or all the people around us? Are we different people than we were a year ago, or 50 years ago? Is it enough to have the same captain piloting the ship? And what does that even mean if we're applying it to humans? That's the question, and it has religious implications. But those implications I will leave for you to ponder. And that is our story for today.
Each Sunday at Beacon, we invite you to light a candle of joy or sorrow, grief or celebration. Perhaps you are kindling a light of gratitude for those who have supported and nurtured you during this difficult year. Maybe you're lighting a candle for strength and courage necessary to make changes you dream of for yourself or for this world. Maybe you light a candle in celebration of spring, the season of hope and new life. We welcome you to light a candle in your home. We also invite you to lift up a name or an intention in the chat. As we begin this kindling of lights, we draw our attention to all of those who have died of COVID-19, and also all of their loved ones that are left behind. We hold a moment of silence for those we have lost, and also for those who are grieving, such as their partners, children, siblings, and friends.
just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Sing on just a little while longer. Sing on just a little while longer. Sing on just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright.
We also light a candle of witness. Antoine Rose Jr. was born in 2001 in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was a student at Woodland Hills High School, where he took advanced placement classes. From an early age, Antoine was interested in serving his community. At 14 years old, he reached out to a local organization that distributes food and clothing for community members in need. And he reached out in order to volunteer. So he began volunteering his time. Not only was Antoine community-minded, he was also ambitious. At 15, he applied for a job at the Pittsburgh Gymnastics Club. While other teenagers might have shown up to the interview in athletic clothes, Antoine showed up in a three-piece suit, anxious to make a good impression. Antoine was hired, and the owner called him an absolute dream and charming, a caring person that everyone loved. His manager at the volunteer organization said, he looked at you in the eyes and gave anyone speaking to him his total attention and respect. He would look at you with a big, sweet smile, and you would feel deep in your heart that this was someone who would make the world better. Antoine was 17 years old when he was shot and killed by a white police officer. He was unarmed. How would our world, or even more locally, Antoine's community, be different had America's history of white supremacy culture not taken him from us? That is the world Beacon is committed to building, a world where Antoine lives and thrives. May this kindling of light in honor of his life deepen our conviction to disrupt and resist the culture that took him from us. Amen.
I give thanks for that song, Hold On. In the midst of this week of relief and reckoning, that song has been playing through my mind, through my soul, as well as this prayer, a prayer written by my colleague, Tamara Labak, and I offer it to you that it may be a balm this week. Would you pray with me, beloved, in whatever way you know how to pray? God of many names and beyond all naming, you who has endowed us with the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, let us remember this day and in all the days to come that in this country there is no national religion, that there is no superior race, that there is no preferable gender or orientation. We gather. We gather this Sunday and every Sunday. We gather every day of the week. We gather in our minds and in our spirits, bodies together. We gather holding this common value, that the glory of this country rests first and foremost in its diversity. Out of many beliefs, out of many views, out of many ideas, out of many voices, pulling the margins, the voices on the margins into the center, out of their many voices, out of our shared passions and experiences, out of the many, we, beloved, are one. Help us, O God. Help us, Spirit of life. Help us, still small voice within, to never forget that we need not think alike, to live alike, to love alike. We ask for forgiveness this day. We do. We ask for forgiveness for our national and our individual transgressions. When we have chosen inaction or silence in the face of injustice and the abuse of power, we ask for forgiveness. We ask for forgiveness for when we have not known our own neighbor, when we have not fed the hunger inside us, the hunger among us, when we have not equipped the future generations with the knowledge and the love that they need to survive and thrive in this world. We ask for a blessing on this nation, according to our own faith and forms. We ask for a blessing, knowing that that blessing comes from all of us. And so therefore we pledge not only our voice, and we do pledge our voice, we give up our silence and pledge our voice and our actions this day in support of moving closer and closer to freedom, to liberation, until we know it in our bones. These and the prayers of our hearts, we pray now in silence. I know you've got them, beloved, those prayers in your heart. We hold them. In the name and all of the names of those who come before us, say their names. And in the names of all who will come after us, in the names of all those who help us win this freedom, we say, Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
Good morning, Beacon. My name is Carrie Puglisi, and I am so grateful for this opportunity to get to talk to you once again. I am the Director of Program and Fund Development with La Casa de Don Pedro, and about a year ago, your congregation came together and raised funds to support La Casa during a really difficult transitional time at the start of the pandemic. And we are so grateful for every donation, for every dollar that you raise to support the work that we do. You allowed us to purchase essential supplies, essential items that we needed in the face of the pandemic. And you also helped us position ourselves to address some emerging needs that our community has been facing, particularly around hunger and particularly around rental assistance. I wanted to give you a really quick update on how we're doing. It's been tough. It's been quite a year, as you all know. But the good news is we finally, after more than a year, have been able to welcome our preschoolers back to our preschool centers. So starting in mid-April, about 300 or so preschoolers came back, and now they're in hybrid learning, which is a big win, a big success for us all. Most of our programs have continued to be virtual, although slowly more and more are coming into face-to-face. It all depends on the program. But one of the programs that I'm really, really excited to be able to help offer and share to the greater Essex County area is our lead remediation program. We've been providing lead remediation and abatement in homes since 2017. We've remediated about 84 homes in Essex County, keeping children and families safe. I'm sure you probably know this already, but any home that was built prior to 1978 likely has had some lead in their home through lead paint. And for a lot of the homes, a lot of the households that we work with live in, those homes have often not been kept up, haven't been well maintained, and chances are there is lead in the home. And with children, as we all know, lead poisoning is a serious disease and can have long-term impact on children's learning and their well-being. So what we do in terms of abatement and remediation, we have a contract with the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, and coming up, starting actually this month through March of 2022, our goal is to abate and remediate about 38 homes in Essex County, including Newark. What we do is we have a professional lead assessment team come to the home, and they determine if there's lead in the house. They do a lead assessment and where that lead is. And this is actually done prior to a long application process where families are evaluated based on their income, eligibility, as well as lead in the presence of their home. And typically we're able to remove lead paint found on walls, on doors, on door jambs. We replace windows, we test for lead in the soil, and test exterior structure as well. During this process, we also help relocate families into temporary housing because oftentimes the work that is being done takes quite a while. But the great thing about the lead program is that it also is able to help leverage other programs that we have around energy conservation, particularly our weatherization program, as well as our heating improvement program and home energy assistance. So a household can receive as much as $40,000 in improvements, which is a wonderful, really great opportunity. However, there are often some challenges, and we run into barriers, and there are certain situations where households, they may qualify for the program. They may have a child who we need to keep safe, but they have certain situations in their home that we can't address first. Oftentimes, we actually run into clutter. We work with a lot of households, unfortunately, that have so many things in their basement or their storage room, and we can't get to the work because of the clutter. There might be leaky bathroom plumbing, there might be leaky roofs or gutters, and other real challenges in the homes, and we have to walk away. So what we're seeking from you is your support and helping us raise dollars so we can address those needs. We can address that situation that's preventing us from being able to work to remove the lead in those homes. And your donation will leverage our funding so we can help more households, so we can help those families get the help that they need to keep their homes safe, to keep their children safe, and we appreciate it. So any donation you can provide is valued, is appreciated. We are so grateful for whatever support you can provide. And finally, I just want to mention to you, June 17th, La Casa is having an annual event, a virtual annual event called La Casa en Su Casa with the theme Silver Linings. It's free, but we welcome you to purchase wine and to purchase cheese to enjoy our virtual wine and cheese testing as part of the event. You can learn more at www.lacasanwk.org. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day. And again, you guys are great. You've been with us since the beginning of the pandemic, and we are so grateful for your support. Thank you so, so much.
Do you ever discover something online that's so fascinating that you wind up falling down a rabbit hole, staying up until 1 a.m., reading the entire archive, and the next thing you know, you're an expert in how many different types of toucans there are, or you know the entire history of bread? That's what happened to me when I discovered the Stuffed Animal Hospital blog. Formerly a children's librarian, Beth Karpus has been a doll maker now for over 30 years, and she specializes in stuffed animal repairs. Since 2014, she's been documenting a few of the most drastic cases every month and posting photos online. Her patients are all over the map. Oliver the otter, Raj the tiger, Heartbreaker the hippo, an owl held together by safety pins. Others run over by a lawnmower. Some stuffed animals have been shredded by the family dog. 3 teddy bears once arrived on the same day without noses. Musty and Snuffles were damaged during flooding from Hurricane Harvey. There was a road runner with a broken tail. One of the oldest was a teddy bear from 1907. Whose paw pads had worn out. Something unexpected that shines through in the blog is how much these objects mean to their owners. So much that they don't seem to be treated like objects at all. Often, people send their stuffed animals with another stuffed animal to keep it company on the journey. Children send their stuffed animals with letters and hand-drawn illustrations of them and their favorite stuffy. "Come back soon, Snakey," the letters say. Or they send it with a small blanket to keep it warm. Some poke air holes in the cardboard box. Adults do this too. According to Beth, many customers say things like, "I know it's only a stuffed animal, but it means the world to me." Or, "If I had to save one item in a fire, it would be my teddy bear." Or, "I'm 65 years old, and this doll is still my most treasured possession." Now, even if the fur can be salvaged, most of the stuffed animals wind up needing a full stuffing transplant. But some of them also wind up needing all or most of their fur replaced. As you can imagine, this can be existentially distressing to their owners. Is Inchy the inchworm still Inchy? Really? If Inchy's stuffing and fur have both been totally replaced? Beth takes extreme care to involve the owners in every step of every repair, making sure they choose the closest fabrics and deciding whether and how much to replace. Being able to make those decisions does seem to help, but there's also something else she does. For every stuffed animal that she does extensive repairs on, Beth Carpus takes some of the original stuffing and stuffs it into a little heart, which she sews closed and places into the very middle of the stuffed animal. Now, when I first saw this heart solution, I thought, oh my God, they solved the Ship of Theseus. Thank you for bringing a part of my past back to life, wrote the owner of a 50-year-old rainbow dragon who was now breathing new flames out of red felt with a rainbow heart filled with original stuffing deep inside the dragon. It seems that for this thing to be the same, at least in a way that counts, it doesn't necessarily have to have all the same material from the past, or even most. It has to carry forward the past in its heart. It has to preserve some essence of its identity at the core, so that someone who remembers it from before can believe emotionally that as far as it matters to them, yes, this is the same dragon. Think back to the example of this ship. So many arguments about the Ship of Theseus have to do with the wood being changed. But I wonder about the sailors as being the living, breathing heart of the ship. What if they never got off the ship, even if the boards were all being replaced around them? Could you convince them, really, that it was no longer the same ship that they were sailing on, when they climbed into the same bunk every night, and every day climbed the same ladders? When they chose the new boards themselves and subsumed the changing surface of the ship into their understanding of what it was? When they accepted every board as being part of this thing, when it's part of their experience, as they've lived it? Or imagine the person who picnics at the same bend in the river every year with their family, forming new memories of how this tree leans or how many flowers there are. Is their experience and memory and observation not the heart of continuity in the changing landscape? And in a church. In a church where new members are constantly joining and old members are falling away, such that any year the church body might look differently than it did 50 years ago, where the building might be renovated, and every few decades the hymnals even will change. Each of us serves as part of this beating heart of continuity in the living tradition, testifying to the fact that yes, the church has changed, and yes, the church is the same. Truly then, to journey with a group of people for any length of time is a kind of privilege, a very special privilege, defined by what you share. We have made it, those of us who are here now worshiping together. We have made it through one of the strangest and most difficult times probably most of us can remember. It's not something that we will likely forget. Times like these can prompt poignant reflection as we remember the way things used to be, the way things have changed, and imagine the way things are going to have to be different going forward. I once asked my Uncle Harry, when he was dying, about his aunts and uncles, his memories of childhood, what my grandparents and what their siblings were like. And he told me something out of the blue that I was not expecting, and it might not be true for you, but I do believe it was true for him. He said, the best time of your life is when all the grown-ups are still alive, when the aunts and uncles are all still around, when everyone who was already in the world when you were little is still in it, and you still assume that they always will be, and nothing will change. When you know everyone there is to know, the entire cast of characters, and you know your place in it, and your place will never change. My Uncle Harry died in 2016, and I've often thought back to what he told me that day, and what it means about who we are. Are we still ourselves when the people we're surrounded by have changed? Are we still ourselves when the people who remembered who we were as children are no longer there to remind us? Are we still parents if we've lost a child? Are we still our parents' children when we've lost them? Is there some heart of continuity that we can count on within ourselves to tell us who we are? Is there something about who we are that stays the same? In philosophy of mind, this is all a big problem, whether we are the same people we were in the past. There are so many stages of life that wind up being opportunities to take stock of who we are, where we've been, who we are now, and who we want to be going forward, who we are becoming, and who we are unbecoming. What planks in the ship we want to replace, and what heart of stuffing we choose to retain because it is so precious to us. I'm reminded of the Buddhist concept of anatta, that there is no fixed, permanent, unchanging self, that everything, including us, is always in a state of change. And I think one of the understated joys of life is the privilege of being able to witness this ebb and flow of identity throughout time, as well as the sacred blessing of memory that persists even through the change. I return always to that Alan Watts quote that we are the universe perceiving itself. And I think that each through line of continuity in us, that each of us is, each fragment of the divine whole that each of us is, each corner of the changing universe, as we observe it, is holy and irreplaceable. Which means that the chance to experience anything for however long, the chance to witness the changing of the planks, and to remember, is an incredible gift. Now, at this stage in your life, how will you flourish into your truest self? How will you honor the experiences that you've had and carry forward some heart of continuity? What will you choose to hold on to? Which old planks will you replace gladly even? Which new ones will you welcome into your understanding of self? Which rabbit holes will you wind up falling into, learning about every species of toucan or the entire history of bread? Or what childhood treasures your fellow travelers hold tightest? My wish for each of you is the wonder and delight of seafaring aboard a ship of your own making in these most sacred waters that we share. Amen and blessed be.
You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you've got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing along. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance. dance all around. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the Spirit says do.
Energized by gratitude for the sacred time we have created together this morning, let's head out into the world and into our weeks with these words from Mickey Scott Bay Jones. She calls it brave space. If you want, you can choose to set an intention to live out its call. Together we will create brave space, because there is no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be. But it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.